There comes a point in life when you stop believing in fairy tales and start seeing things for what they really are. When it comes to understanding men, that realization often hits late and hard because no one teaches you the uncomfortable, unpolished truths about how men think, love, commit, and walk away. These are the lessons women usually learn through heartbreak, silence, or confusion, not conversations. But once you know them, you stop chasing explanations and start protecting your peace. These aren't opinions, they're realities that will make you see men differently forever. The first harsh truth is that a man's actions always reveal his intentions. You can listen to every word he says, replay every conversation, and analyze every message, but at the end of the day, his behavior is what tells the real story. Words are easy, they're instant, they sound nice in the moment, but they don't cost him anything. Actions require consistency, effort, and sincerity. A man who truly wants to be with you will not leave you confused about his priorities. He won't make you wonder where you stand or what you mean to him. You'll see it in the way he shows up, in the way he listens, in the way he protects your peace instead of disturbing it. If he says he cares but keeps disappearing, if he promises to change but his habits stay the same, then his actions have already given you the answer you're looking for. The truth is, confusion is not a byproduct of genuine love. It's a symptom of mixed intentions. When a man's words and actions don't align, believe the actions because they carry the truth his mouth is too afraid to admit. So many people get caught in the trap of potential, convincing themselves that maybe he's just busy, maybe he's going through something, maybe he needs time. But love doesn't hide behind excuses. A man who values you will make space for you even when life is heavy. You don't need to chase clarity from someone who's showing you avoidance. When you keep trying to justify his inconsistency, you're training yourself to settle for half-hearted effort. Real connection doesn't need decoding. It feels safe, not uncertain. A man who's serious about you won't treat your presence like an option. He will understand that time and energy are the currency of care, and he'll spend both on you willingly. The one who truly respects you doesn't have to be reminded how to treat you because consistency is part of his character, not something you have to coach into him. It's painful, but most of the time, the truth is right in front of you. He's not too busy to call. He just doesn't prioritize communication. He's not unsure about what he wants. He just doesn't want to lose your attention while he figures it out. And that's the part many women ignore because it's easier to believe in his potential than to accept his reality. But ignoring what he does only delays your peace. When a man truly values a woman, he moves with intention. He doesn't keep her waiting, wondering, or doubting. He makes his presence known not through promises, but through patterns. You'll notice it in how he remembers the small things, how he makes effort without being asked, how he includes you in his world without hesitation. His commitment won't come from pressure. It will come naturally because he sees your worth and knows what losing it would mean. Actions are the language of truth, and when you learn to listen to them, you stop getting trapped in uncertainty. A man's effort reveals his heart more than his words ever will. If he's not investing time, energy, and consistency, then he's already told you where you stand. People show love in many ways, but they all share one thing in common. Genuine effort doesn't leave you questioning it. When someone truly wants you in their life, they don't make you chase reassurance. They prove it again and again through presence, attention, and respect that doesn't fade when things get hard. Another truth is that most men don't change unless they lose something that truly matters to them. Growth for many men doesn't come from comfort, it comes from consequence. As long as things feel easy, predictable, and under control, there's no urgency to evolve. You can talk to him about accountability, you can show him patience, and you can believe in his potential, but none of that can substitute for the personal realization that his actions have real outcomes. A man who has always been rescued from the weight of his mistakes never learns the lesson those mistakes were meant to teach. Change doesn't happen because you love him enough. It happens because he reaches a point where he can no longer ignore the discomfort of staying the same. Some men only start growing when silence replaces arguments, when distance replaces attention, and when your absence shows them what your presence was truly worth. It's natural to want to help someone you care about become their best version. You want to see him reach his potential, live up to his promises, and meet you with the same energy you give. But there's a fine line between supporting and saving. When you take responsibility for his growth, you end up carrying emotional weight that isn't yours. You become the motivator, the therapist, and the safety net all in one, and he never feels the need to rise because he knows you'll catch him when he falls. Real growth requires discomfort. It demands that a man confronts the reflection he's been avoiding. If he never faces consequences, he never learns accountability. If you always excuse the behavior, you become part of the pattern he refuses to change. There comes a point when you have to understand that love cannot replace self-awareness. You can't love a man into maturity. You can't talk him into responsibility. He has to want those things for himself. A man evolves when the life he's created by his own choices starts to feel unbearable. It's when he loses peace, trust, or someone who truly cared that the lesson finally sinks in. Pain becomes the mirror he can't ignore. That's when he starts to see that excuses no longer hold power and that change isn't an option, it's a necessity. But that transformation only happens when he feels the sting of loss deep enough to shake his comfort. And even then, it's not guaranteed. Some men rebuild, others repeat. The difference lies in whether they face their pain or hide from it again. It's easy to think your love will be the reason he changes, but growth born from external pressure rarely lasts. The change that matters most is the one that comes from within. A man becomes better when he decides to stop running from his own patterns. Until he reaches that point, nothing you say or do will truly make an impact. That's why you can spend years waiting for potential that never turns into action, because potential means nothing without effort. You can't build a future with someone who's comfortable in the past. You can't plan stability with someone who still thrives in chaos. Real maturity begins when a man finally understands that no one is coming to fix his mess, and he starts doing the hard work to fix it himself. Many women learn too late that men love differently than they express it, and that difference often causes unnecessary confusion and pain. Some men show love through their presence by being there when things fall apart, even if they don't always know the right words to say. Others express it through acts of service, fixing problems, providing solutions, or trying to make life easier in the ways they know how. Some retreat into silence, not because they don't care, but because they were taught that emotions are dangerous, that expressing them makes them weak. But love that constantly leaves you guessing shouldn't be something you have to translate. If you always have to interpret his actions, question his tone, or overthink his intentions, then what you're holding on to might not be love. It might be confusion disguised as connection. Real love speaks clearly. It doesn't need decoding, it doesn't keep you anxious, and it doesn't make you feel like you're walking on eggshells trying to understand where you stand. A man's way of loving is shaped by his upbringing, his past experiences, and the emotional tools he's been given. Many men were never taught emotional literacy, never taught how to express love through vulnerability, only through doing. They grow up believing that providing or showing up physically is enough, that emotions are to be controlled, not shared. So when a woman needs reassurance, communication, or emotional presence, he may pull back, not because he doesn't love her, but because he doesn't know how to meet that need without feeling exposed. Over time, this emotional gap creates imbalance. She feels unseen, unheard, and unloved, even while he feels he's doing everything right. This misunderstanding becomes the silent distance that erodes intimacy. Love needs to be felt, not just assumed, and if a man's love doesn't make you feel emotionally safe, then his actions lose their meaning. What makes this truth harsh is that many women stay in relationships trying to teach a man how to love them while losing themselves in the process. They interpret silence as depth, inconsistency as passion, and absence as mystery. They start working harder to prove their worth instead of pausing to notice that love shouldn't feel like a test. When love becomes something you have to earn instead of something freely given, it drains more than it builds. You start mistaking mixed signals for complexity, thinking maybe he's just different, maybe he shows love in his own way. But love that constantly demands interpretation keeps you emotionally exhausted. Real love should give peace, not confusion. It should bring clarity, not chaos. A man who truly loves you won't make you question his feelings. His actions will align with his words. His consistency will speak louder than any apology, and his presence will bring comfort, not anxiety. You won't have to chase validation because his care will show up in ways that make you feel secure. The moment you stop making excuses for inconsistent love is the moment you begin to understand that healthy love isn't about guessing, it's about understanding. A man who values you won't make his affection a puzzle you have to solve. He will make it known through steady attention, genuine effort, and emotional transparency that doesn't need translation because it's clear in how he shows up for you every single day. There's also a painful truth about male pride that many women discover only after they've tried to love a man who doesn't know how to be emotionally open. Most men are raised to believe that showing feelings is a sign of weakness, that strength comes from silence, and that vulnerability is something to be ashamed of. So instead of communicating honestly, they hide behind pride, distraction, or emotional distance. They bottle up pain, disguise insecurity with arrogance, and use detachment as a shield against the fear of being seen too deeply. Pride becomes their protection, but also their prison. When a man can't admit that he's scared, hurt, or wrong, he ends up pushing away the very person who makes him feel safe enough to open up. The tragedy is that many women mistake this emotional unavailability for strength, thinking that his calm detachment means he's in control, when in reality, it's just a wall built from fear. It's not that men don't feel deeply, it's that they've been conditioned to hide those feelings behind control and composure. They're taught to solve problems instead of expressing them, to shut down instead of breaking down, and to move on before they've healed. But love doesn't survive behind walls. When a man refuses to let his guard down, his relationships become shallow, even if his intentions are good. He might care, he might even love, but without emotional expression, that love can't fully connect. Women often try to break through that wall with patience, compassion, and reassurance, but pride resists rescue. The more you try to pull him out of his shell, the more he retreats into it because vulnerability feels like exposure, and exposure feels like weakness. This kind of pride shows up in many ways. It's the man who refuses to apologize even when he knows he's wrong. It's the man who shuts down during emotional conversations instead of engaging. It's the man who uses silence as control rather than communication. It's the man who can't say he's hurting because admitting that means surrendering the image he's built to survive. For many men, pride becomes a coping mechanism. It's not about ego alone, it's about survival. But for the woman trying to love him, that survival mode becomes exhausting. You end up doing all the emotional work, holding space for a man who won't meet you halfway, and slowly you start to realize that love shouldn't feel like trying to convince someone to feel. Understanding this truth doesn't mean tolerating emotional neglect. It means recognizing that empathy has boundaries. You can understand why he's guarded without sacrificing your peace to break his walls. You can see his pain without accepting his silence as love. Because emotional maturity isn't about never feeling weak. It's about being strong enough to express it. The moment a man learns to put his pride aside and speak from his heart, that's when true connection begins. But until that happens, you have to remember that love is a two-way effort. You can't pour endlessly into someone who mistakes your care for comfort and your patience for permission to stay closed off. Loving a man with pride too heavy to lift is like holding on to someone who refuses to reach back. The harshest truth of all is that you can be everything a man says he wants and still not be chosen because his readiness has nothing to do with your worth. You can be loyal, patient, loving, supportive, and understanding. But if a man is not in a place in his life where he's ready to give what you deserve, your effort won't make him stay. Readiness is about timing, self awareness, and emotional capacity. A man might recognize your value but still walk away because he's not prepared to meet you at the level of consistency and commitment that real love requires. This is where many women get hurt the most, thinking that if they just love harder, prove themselves more, or hold on a little longer, he will eventually realize what he has. But you can't inspire readiness in someone who's not ready to receive love. You can't build a future with someone who's still tied to his past or unsure of who he is. When a man isn't ready, he will find reasons to delay, distance, or complicate things. He'll talk about potential, timing, and confusion, but the truth is that he's not in a place to lead a relationship. He might want the comfort of your presence without the responsibility of your heart. He might enjoy your company, but fear your expectations. He might even care deeply, but caring isn't the same as committing. A man who's not ready often lives in contradiction, saying he wants love, but running from it when it asks him to grow. You'll feel this imbalance in every interaction, the push and pull, the mixed signals, the uncertainty that keeps you emotionally off balance. You start to question what you're doing wrong, when the reality is that his unreadiness has nothing to do with you and everything to do with his own unresolved battles. The hardest part is realizing that being the right woman doesn't guarantee the right outcome. You can do everything right and still not get chosen because love only works when both people are in the same emotional season. A man can see your value but not be ready to match it. He can admire your strength but fear the accountability it brings. He can love you in his own limited way, but not enough to step into the kind of partnership that requires sacrifice, communication, and growth. Readiness demands maturity, and maturity means understanding that love isn't just a feeling, it's a responsibility. It's showing up even when it's inconvenient, choosing connection over ego, and building trust through action. A man who isn't emotionally equipped will see that as pressure instead of privilege. It's natural to want to hold on, to believe that if you just wait, he'll catch up. But waiting for someone to become ready often leads to losing yourself in the process. You start shrinking your needs to fit his comfort. You start lowering your expectations to match his pace. You start confusing patience with self-neglect. But the truth is, love should not require you to wait indefinitely for someone to grow into the person you need. When a man is truly ready, you won't have to convince him. He'll recognize your worth, meet your energy, and align his actions with his intentions. He'll see commitment not as a burden, but as an opportunity to build something real. Because when a man is ready, he doesn't hesitate, he doesn't hide, and he doesn't make you question where you stand. He makes sure you never have to.